Good day to viewers, the Colonel speaking to you live from the Grange, British Imperial YouTube Broadcasting. Today we've got a real treat for you. Linguaphone language record, spoken English and broken English, written and spoken by George Bernard HSaw, parts 3 and 4. Here we go.
I have said enough to you about the fact that no two native speakers of English speak it alike. But perhaps you are clever enough to ask me whether I myself always speak it in the same way. I must confess at once that I do not. Nobody does. I am at present speaking to an audience of many thousands of gramophonists, many of whom are trying hard to follow my words syllable by syllable. If I were to speak to you as carelessly as I speak to my wife at home, this record would be useless. And if I were to speak to my wife at home as carefully as I am speaking to you, she would think that I was going mad. As a public speaker, I have to take care that every word I say is heard distinctly at the far end of large halls containing thousands of people. But at home, when I have to consider only my wife sitting within 6 feet of me at breakfast, I take so little pains with my speech that very often, instead of giving me the expected answer, she says, "Don't mumble, and don't turn your head away when you speak. I can't hear a word you are saying." And she also is a little careless. Sometimes I have to say, "What?" 2 or 3 times during our meal, and she suspects me of growing deafer and deafer, though she does not say so, because, as I am now over 70, it might be true. No doubt I ought to speak to my wife as carefully as I should speak to a queen, and she to me as carefully as she would speak to a king. We ought to, but we don't. Don't, by the way, is short for do not. We all have company manners and home manners. If you were to call on a strange family and to listen through the keyhole, not that I would suggest for a moment that you are capable of doing such a very unladylike or ungentlemanlike thing, but still, if, in your enthusiasm for studying languages, you could bring yourself to do it just for a few seconds, to hear how a family speak to one another when there is nobody else listening to them, and then walk into the room and hear how very differently they speak in your presence, the change would surprise you. Even when our home manners are as good as our company manners, and of course they ought to be much better, they are always different, and the difference is greater in speech than in anything else. Suppose I forget to wind my watch and it stops. I have to ask somebody to tell me the time. If I ask a stranger, I say, "What o'clock is it?" The stranger hears every syllable distinctly. But if I ask my wife, all she hears is "clock's it." That is good enough for her, but it would not be good enough for you. So I am speaking to you now much more carefully than I speak to her. But please don't tell her.
On to side 4.
I am now going to address myself especially to my foreign hearers. I have to give them another warning of quite a different kind. If you are learning English because you intend to travel in England and wish to be understood there, do not try to speak English perfectly, because if you do, no one will understand you. I have already explained that though there is no such thing as perfectly correct English, there is presentable English, which we call good English. But in London, 999 out of every 1,000 people not only speak bad English, but speak even that very badly. You may say that even if they do not speak English well themselves, they can at least understand it when it is well spoken. They can when the speaker is English. But when the speaker is a foreigner, the better he speaks, the harder it is to understand him. No foreigner can ever stress the syllables and make the voice rise and fall in question and answer, assertion and denial, in refusal and consent, in inquiry or information, exactly as a native does. Therefore, the first thing you have to do is to speak with a strong foreign accent and speak broken English, that is, English without any grammar. Then every English person to whom you speak will at once know that you are a foreigner and try to understand you and be ready to help you. He will not expect you to be polite and to use elaborate grammatical phrases. He will be interested in you because you are a foreigner and pleased by his own cleverness in making out your meaning and being able to tell you what you want to know. If you say, "Will you have the goodness, sir, to direct me to the railway terminus at Charing Cross," pronouncing all the vowels and consonants beautifully, he will not understand you and will suspect you of being a beggar or a confidence trickster. But if you shout, "Please, Charing Cross, which way?" you will have no difficulty. Half a dozen people will immediately overwhelm you with directions. Even in private intercourse with cultivated people, you must not speak too well. Apply this to your attempts to learn foreign languages, and never try to speak them too well. And do not be afraid to travel. You will be surprised to find how little you need to know, or how badly you may pronounce. Even among English people, to speak too well is a pedantic affectation. In a foreigner, it is something worse than an affectation. It is an insult to the native who cannot understand his own language when it is too well spoken. That is all I can tell you. The record will hold no more. Goodbye.
Do you know, viewers, I'm sure he was not just smiling, but pulling our legs at the same time in a strange way. Thank you, viewers, and goodbye.